Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, midweek report time, and boy oh boy have we had a good week so far, in terms of boxing news anyway. Well, I hope everyone else has had a good week, but there's a lot of news been coming in over the last few days. Obviously, the main talking point, which we will talk about right now, is of course the Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte contract now being signed. I don't know if it's necessarily an issue, but I do wonder, because I did see something about the WBC needing to get certain things sent over and stuff like that. Where we go? Here it is. Here it was reported by Dan Raphael this on Monday, I think, that even though both men have reportedly signed the contract, quite importantly, isn't completely settled yet. It's claimed there's an issue still ongoing over language in the content related to the UK tax withholding, which the WBC must make a ruling on. Now, I don't want to, without, how do I say it? I reckon that'll probably be okay. I reckon whatever that, like, if it's to do with all that, like the BBC would have that kind of ready to go. So it does to me, and Eddie Hearn did give an interview where he indicated basically that Dillian Whyte will, of course, attend the press conference for this fight. We're literally just waiting on, if both guys have signed the contract and everything appears to be in order, we're probably just waiting for the BBC for the okay, go ahead. Then I would imagine we'll get an announcement soon. I wouldn't even be surprised if we get it this coming weekend, to be honest with you. Maybe the day before the DAZN card. Sky and DAZN have cards on this weekend, and I'm going to actually preview both cards in this video. But the Josh Taylor fight is on a Saturday and the Collie fight is on a Sunday. They're not clashing in that regard. They're not on the same night, which is actually quite good. I like having boxing on a Sunday. It's actually quite nice. Even if you've work on the next day, it's still nice to have something to look forward to on a Sunday. Anyway, I might even do a watch along for one of them. But he's insisting that Dillian Whyte will be at the press conference. I think the fact that there's a lot of things, like Dillian Whyte apparently is not going to get any more than what's going to be on the purse. Apparently he's not going to get any like percentage of the gate, the pay-per-view, etc. So I guess in that regard, you would say, what is the point in promoting the fight? You know, what is the point in that regard? And Tyson Fury, obviously, you can tell subtly he's trying to get Dillian Whyte to bite on certain things. You know, making all these videos, you know, saying Dillian Whyte, of course he signed it, he'd be an idiot not to, and stuff like that, and trying to kind of go almost a response out of Dillian Whyte with some of those little Instagram videos and Twitter posts and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I've seen Dillian Whyte loads of times online and at press conferences snap, or the gloves are off as well, kind of lose it, and the red mist descends. I can't help but feel that's going to happen at one of these press conferences. I wouldn't be shocked, especially if it's in the UK, if you've got John Fury and Tyson Fury really both going in trying to, you know, wind Dillian Whyte up. And chances are press conferences will only be in the UK because, well, I would imagine they would anyway, because this fight's going to more than likely take place in Wembley Stadium. So we'll watch the space. I'm just waiting for the formal announcement on that. You know, Tyson Fury's even told reporters he's actually got Jared Anderson back in sparring. And Jared Anderson, as you know, I rate him extremely highly. So, you know, for him, and there was a lot of people who said Jared Anderson, there was a lot of reports as well, that in the run-up to remember the original date for the Wilder Trilogy fight was meant to be in July. There was a lot of talk behind the scenes that Anderson was really giving Tyson Fury all he could handle in sparring. And that was one of the reasons why the fight got pushed back to October. You know, maybe Fury at the time wasn't, you know, physically in the best of shape. And Anderson is tremendously talented. I mean, he is one of those, like, even Deontay Wilder when he was up and coming, I didn't look at Wilder. Like, I looked at Wilder's power and thought, holy mother of God, this guy can punch. But every aspect of his game I wasn't looking at thinking, oh wow. Whereas Anderson, the punching power is not obviously Wilder level. Like, it's not just jaw dropping, like, oh my God, this guy can knock out a horse. He can definitely punch Anderson, but it's everything, the technique, the speed, the energy. Very talented fighter, so he's good sparring. But Coley's not bad, and David Adelaye, so that's actually not bad sparring. Obviously for Dillian Whyte, who would you get for Tyson Fury? Like, Lawrence Okolie wouldn't be a bad shout. I don't know if him and Dillian Whyte, would they be on the best of terms? I know he's part of Team AJ, And obviously he's got a fight coming up as well, actually, so forget that, what am I saying. But that's good sparring for Tyson Fury, definitely. In terms of Eddie Hearn, he gave an interview with IFL TV, I'm going to quote him here. Because here's the thing, and I only talked about this last week, that AJ Usyk, he's mentioned in here that it could be potentially May or June. And, you know, I wasn't overly... I expected that. Even Klimas has said Usyk is in the UK this week, by the way. He said Stamford Bridge the other night for a Chelsea game against Lille. Eddie Hearn has stated actually that they'll sit down and go through the venue and options for the Joshua rematch, May or June. Financial deal already in place, but obviously they got to decide in the venue. AJ is stating that he's not going to make an announcement on his trainer until his camp starts. So, yeah, look, people thinking this was going to be in April, ain't going to be in April, probably May or June, because they're probably going to start camp sometime in March, I would imagine. So, watch the space on that. We will get an announcement on who the new trainer for AJ is. There's not even been any real hints, hasn't there now? It's been real tight-lipped. It's been real tight-lipped about that, so I'm curious to see who he's going to be working with. Obviously, the longer this rematch is pushed down the road, the longer they kick the can down the road, the more it benefits. Well, I'm still taking Usyk, but the better chances for AJ are, because it gives him, as I've said several times, a chance to acclimatise a little bit more to a new trainer. As I said, Joe Parker had 6 weeks with Andy Lee for the first Chisora fight, and I wasn't impressed, and I think a lot of other people were. Fast forward a further 6 months of working with Andy Lee, close with Andy Lee over a prolonged period of time. It was like a different fighter. Not fully different, there was still parts of Parker that was there, which I wish weren't have been there, but he was probably about 80-85% a different fighter, and benefited from having that long time with Andy Lee. So you kind of take the first thing fight out of the equation and say, right, he was just acclimatising. Once he acclimatised, and there's still work to do, he was able to get better. So that's why I think AJ needs a lot more time with whoever this new trainer is going to be. In terms of some of the other news that we had, let's have a look-see here. Let's have an old skedaddle. So on the DAZN Boxing Show, Hearn revealed, Eddie Hearn, that he is working as an intermediate. They're now working on an intermediate between, an interim diary between himself and Lou DiBella to try and make Kambosos Haney next. He said they've had a good week of talks with offers going back and forth. So last week it was Lomachenko, pretty much a done deal. This week Eddie Hearn is saying no, Haney can still happen. Look, either or for Kambosos, to be honest with you. I think stylistically the Lomachenko fight will catch fire a bit more. Now that's not to say the Devin Haney fight wouldn't, but I just think stylistically Kambosos and Loma, the styles could gel beautifully together. They really could, actually, when I think about it. Those styles could really mix quite well, Kambosos and Loma. In terms of Haney, it will be undisputed. The whole franchise thing is a bit silly, but look, it'll be for definite undisputed if it is that, which I do like to see. And obviously I know I always say, like, I would prioritise undisputed. That's weird, because I'd love to see the Lomachenko fight at the same time, because as I said, I just think stylistically that fight could really catch fire quite well. But look, no, George Kambosos Jr. is a fantastic fighter. He really is. He really surprised me in the Teofimo Lopez fight. Not just the fact that he won it, but he showed a level of skill that I didn't think was there personally. But I'd give him a better shot over Haney than I would Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko would. It would be a competitive fight, don't get me wrong, but I would make Lomachenko firm favourite over Kambosos. I'll watch the space with that. Conor Benn versus Kell Brook is a brilliant fight, Eddie Hearn said. I said to Kell last night, why would you even think about fighting Eubank Jr. middleweight when you're when you can have a huge welterweight fight versus Conor Benn? Again, I go back. Like, Eddie Hearn should not have gone out and said, both these fighters, Amir Khan and Kell Brook, you know, who wants to see it? You know, they're over the hill. You know, they're finished. But the winner should fight Conor Benn. Again, I'm just going to leave it with that. You shouldn't have said that. In terms of some of the other news, interesting one. Florian Marku, we know Florian Marku, the Albanian king, has been added to the Savannah Marshall card on April 2nd in Newcastle. Florian Marku is going to be fighting Chris Jenkins. But it's a step up for Florian Marku compared to the levels he was fighting at. Chris Jenkins, of course, he was former British champion, wasn't he? So that'd be an interesting little fight. Marku is like Ben Shalom hit the jackpot there with regards to ticket seller, because Florian Marku, honestly, like you only have to look at the YouTube videos, much less the events he's at. I mean, this is a guy who filled out the York Hall in what, his third or fourth pro fight. His videos on, like, if you see YouTubers like in the YTBC who do a Marku video, you're getting thousands of views just for that one video. It's all Albanian fans, of course, but he is a massive name over there, and he sells tickets. And what they did, I get why they did this. You know, I do find this a little bit kind of misleading, but I get why they do it, and I wonder will they do it here. When he fought on that, was the React Doradola card, they had like React and Doradola on as the main event with Marku on next. The arena was packed to the rafters with Florian Marku fans, so it made it seem like the main event, they were all there for the main event, and then the main event finished and Marku fought last again an 8-rounder. And as they said on Sky, it was like being at a world title fight. There was that many people there. I do think that's a bit, because they're not there for the main event, and God knows if Marku had fought, because that kind of fight would be probably third fight before the end. And if they'd done that, that arena would have cleared out rapidly, and it wouldn't have been the same spectacle. It wasn't a great fight, to be fair. Doradola was shot, but you wouldn't have had the atmosphere that you did in that main event. So I understand why they do it, and I wouldn't be shocked if they do it again in this fight. I really wouldn't, or this card, wouldn't be shocked. So some other fights that have been announced. Obviously, Munguia got back to, well, I say he got back. He got a win. He didn't lose. He won on the weekend, and WBO have ordered him versus Yalabek for the WBO interim middleweight title, not the full title, because apparently Demetrius Andre hasn't fully vacated. I would assume, judging by that, it seems a formality that he's going to vacate. So that essentially, although it has interim, you may as well say it's for the full title. Yalibek versus Munguia. Now that's a good fight. Munguia, here's an interesting one. I seen a video of him post weigh-in, and he was not looking good. Now I don't know whether that was, maybe there was something up with Munguia, maybe he wasn't the best or whatever, but I've heard Munguia is, like, this is a guy coming up from 154 pounds. He's still huge at middleweight. I mean, I don't know how he ever made 154. And even at middleweight, I'm looking at him thinking, this guy's massive. This guy is absolutely massive. So watch the space with Munguia in that fight. That's an interesting little scrap. Also, the WBO have now clarified the purse bids for Demetrius Andre versus Zach Parker for the interim WBO super middleweight world title. Again, like, I don't understand why they're doing an interim title at 160 when your champion is fighting Zach Parker for said interim title at the weight above. To me, that's an indication that he's not coming back down, so you may as well just vacate it. But purse bids for that take place tomorrow. 65-35 split in Demetrius Andre's favour. Wouldn't be at all shocked if Frank Warren puts a big bid in for that. He's been winning. He's got used to winning purse bids. Maybe he wants to keep going. So as for Alexander Usyk, he gave his take with Michelle Joy Phelps on Behind the Gloves, and he was asked about, obviously, Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. It's boxing, anything can happen, but I will think Fury will take it seriously, and my opinion would be he will win that fight. So Usyk picking Tyson Fury to win the fight. The only thing I've worried a bit about Tyson Fury is that he hasn't been looking exactly, I know he's never going to be the body beautiful type, but he has been looking a little bit heavier in training. Just from the eye test, he does look that little bit heavier. So we'll watch the space with that. In terms of some of the other news, before we go on and review these cards, Andre Ward was on about basically Andre Ward and Triple G chiving in on a few things. So Froch rematch in the UK, Golovkin turned it down in less than 5 minutes. Joshua, but I retired. So he was talking about there, basically, a guy said, happy birthday champ, question, is there a fight you want that didn't happen before you retired? And he obviously wanted a Golovkin fight or the Froch rematch in the UK, provided it wasn't in Nottingham, which at the time, this is going a bit off topic, but at the time that was a fair request, because when Froch and Ward fought in the States, that was nowhere near Andre Ward's hometown. Where's Andre Ward from? Is he from Oakland? And this was in Atlantic City? So it was like miles apart. Was that in the Boardwalk Hall when he fought Froch? And I think Ward's from Oakland. Is he from Oakland or is he from somewhere else? But I know it's nowhere near where Andre Ward's from. And Froch wanted the rematch in Nottingham, which was like, and Ward was willing. Ward said himself he's willing to go there, just not in Nottingham, and that's a fair thing. Andre Ward was going in as the champion, by the way. Remember that. Gennady Triple G Golovkin said, Andre, stop lying to your fans. Your team made the offer after I announced the fight with Lemieux and sold out MSG. You are still angry since you never sold tickets like me. HBO knew you used the offer to publicly move to 175. Happy birthday. That is what Triple G says. A Triple G chiving in there. Now, I do want to point something out. Abel Sanchez, I think it might have been 2015, said anyone from 154 to 168 pounds, Gennady Golovkin will be willing to fight them. They wanted the Carl Froch fight at a full 168 pounds. Carl Froch too big, too strong. When Andre Ward accepted that challenge, catch weight 164 pounds. How come you'll fight one at 168 but you won't fight the other? I'll leave it with that. I'll leave it there. In terms of some of the cards we have on this weekend, we'll do a quick preview. We're not going to do a full length one because this could take a while, but we'll do a quick preview. I want to actually check something real quick because there's a fighter on the boxer card and I want to see if it's the same fighter. Yeah, it is. So John Doherty makes his return to the ring on that card, on the Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall card. I was curious because the last time I seen him fight, he was on a Matchroom card. In fact, the last few times I've seen him fight, he was on Matchroom cards. Seems to be he's fighting on Boxer. He lost to Jack Cullen there 2020. He lost to Jack Cullen, and I've seen very little of John Doherty. I hope I wasn't saying Jack Doherty. John Doherty since then. On that card as well, we have Nicky Campbell versus Jay McFarlane. Nicky Campbell, a Scottish heavyweight. I'm not being too impressed with him, to be honest, but he looked fairly poor. But the main event, right, which is Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall, it's a fun fight. Love watching Josh Taylor fight. It's one of my favourite fighters to watch. But this fight right here, a 10-rounder, Robesy Ramirez versus Eric Donovan. That's a good fight, lads. That is a good fight. Olympic gold medalist, Robesy Ramirez, struggled. Had a very bad start to his pro career, losing his pro debut on points. Now, he did avenge that loss. He avenged that loss to Andon Gonzalez, and he won it fairly comfortably back in July of 2020. He's starting to settle a bit more in the pro game now. Eric Donovan, you may remember, he fought Zelfa Barrett on Fight Camp, and he was winning the fight. Pretty clearly, actually, he was doing very well against Zelf Barrett. He got caught with a left hook. I think it was in the 7th round, and it was a big left hook. I'm surprised he was able to get through that round, to be honest, which showed a lot of heart in that fight. But he got that big left hook, and he was pretty much done. I think he got taken out in the next round. But Donovan can really box. The only issue for Donovan is he's 36 years old, and this fight's going to be a featherweight, and that's interesting because Donovan he's a natural featherweight. I know the Barrett fight was a super feather. He's had a couple of fights at super feather, but you see him at super feather compared to Zelfa Barrett. He did not look like a super featherweight. So this will suit him more in terms of it's his natural weight. Lads, that's going to be a great fight. That's a fight I wouldn't be at all shocked to see an upset in. I'm not picking Eric Donovan to win the fight, but Eric Donovan can really box. He can. As I said, the only thing that's going against him is his age. He is the wrong side of 30 now. We'll see how that goes. But I'm really excited about that fight. That's going to be a great fight. I'm really looking forward to that one. Of course, the main event, Josh the Bruce Taylor, the King of Scotland, the King of the Scots. Look forward to seeing him in there against Jack Catterall. I may get a prediction video out, but cut a long story short, I think Josh Taylor's going to win the fight, but I don't think it's going to be a straightforward win. I think Josh Taylor's going to have moments in there where Jack Catterall's going to look good. I think one thing I'd say to Josh Taylor is, although Jack Catterall he's only got like a 50%, he's got a 50% KO ratio. People who've shared the ring with him, like Tyrone McKenna, have commented on how heavy-handed Jack Catterall is. So Josh Taylor may, in that fight, want to just be careful. Just be careful that you don't think that this guy can't hurt you, when a lot of people have commented about how heavy-handed Jack Catterall actually is. So we will move on the Sunday, which I like. Now here's the thing I want to actually touch on. This card, as it stands, is in the O2. Now, I don't know, some subscribers of mine who live in London may be able to let me know, but I seen that the storms last week caused a bit of damage to the roof of the O2. Apparently, on Sunday anyway, Sunday just gone, that wasn't still repaired. So, I don't know, would there be an issue still? Will they have to move it to the Copper Box or Wembley Arena? I don't know. Let's have a look-see at this card and see who we have. So let's see. We've got Campbell Hatton is back on this card, by the way. And that's good because there's been not really much said about Campbell Hatton since that gift he got back on the AJ Usyk card. He made a little run out and got his first stoppage on a card. I think it was in Milan or Spain. And he's quite low down. It's not a massive card. So he needs that. The kid needs that. The kid can't fight. I'm just going to say it. The kid's garbage. But if he's any hope of improving, I mean, Conor Benn didn't look good when he started, but he looked better than Campbell Hatton. Not being horrible to the kid, but I'm not really one. I say it like it is, like the kid's garbage, but bless him, God loves a trier, as the saying goes. And I think Campbell Hatton actually wants to be a fighter. He's not like Tommy Fury, who just, I want my bit of fame and Molly May on my arm and then I'm happy. No, Campbell Hatton actually wants to box. You can tell that about the kid. As I said, he's just not particularly good. But he has a fight against a guy called is this his real name? Joe Ducker. Oh, mate, you were doomed from the start. Joe Ducker, he's I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but he's 36 years old, 9-8, been stopped 4 times. Who has he been in there with? Keane Wainwright stopped him in a round. Nick Ball stopped him in a round. I haven't heard of any of these guys. Youssef Al-Hadim, he's a journeyman, well-known journeyman as well. They've shared wins, actually, funny enough, on points. Jay Hughes, Kirsten Late, Mr. Reliable, one of the best journeymen of all time. Well, yeah, probably one of the best journeymen of all time, or certainly in recent decades anyway. Mr. Reliable, as his name was, 300 pro fights. I think he was only ever stopped 2 or 3 times. This guy was actually stopped by Conor Benn back in 2016 in 2 rounds. So, yeah, he's very poor. So, you'd imagine Campbell Hatton should have no issues. They have to be very careful with the matchmaking from him. And bear in mind, you could say, gee, you're being very harsh on the kid. I'm saying it like it is. However, that doesn't mean he can't improve. I never said that doesn't mean he can't improve. Dempsey McKeenan, I think, he's the Australian heavyweight. He is the Australian heavyweight. Now, he's fighting Ariel Esteban Bracamonte. You may remember him from, I sound like, what's the guy's name? Troy McClure there. You may remember me from such shows as G-Man Talks Boxing or Review of the Week. That's how I sounded like there, wasn't it? The Simpsons. But yeah, you may remember him from when he fought Dave Allen on the Usyk Bellew undercard, and that fight was a war. Both guys were in absolutely poor shape, so it was fun to watch. Galal Yafai, gold medalist at the Olympics, did have a very easy run to the gold medal, it has to be said, but nevertheless he makes his professional debut. So he'll join his 2 brothers in the pro games. Fabio Wadley is fighting Daniel Mars. Daniel Mars although he's not got he's not a journeyman. Well, he's got a journeyman's record, to be fair. He's not lost 9 times. Knocked out by guys like Charles Martin, Simon Keane, Luis Ortiz, Brian Jennings, Joseph Parker, Alex Santos, Glover Young. So he's been knocked out by all these guys. So Fabio Wadley's going in with him. That could be a quick night's work. Fabio Wadley, I'd imagine. Anthony Fowler makes his comeback at middleweight. Big up to Anthony Fowler every single time. Shout out to Anthony Fowler every single time. I've got a lot of respect for him. Man who's not afraid to speak his mind. But he makes his debut at middleweight against a guy called Lucas Massis. Probably how you pronounce his name. Who's he been in there with? Hugh Canto Jr. He fought Charlo and got beat. I think got knocked out by him as well. Don't know who that guy is, who he lost to. So yeah, not really anything. A lot of these names I don't recognise, even his wins. Some journeyman that I would know. Has no power, only 5 stoppages. Not really been in there with the best opposition. Got a split decision over the guy who was 5-0 in the end of 2020. So we'll see how Fowler looks at middleweight. Certainly he was a massive 154 pounder. God almighty how he made that weight, I will never know. Obviously, Jordan Gill fights for a European title against Kerman UF. Jordan Gill is alright. He's alright. I wouldn't be. He's okay. Is Jordan Gill? I'm not exactly 100% convinced on him, but he's alright. He's managed and trained by Dave Caldwell. After the main event, Lawrence Okolie versus Michael Selick. At the time, I thought this fight wasn't going to be any good, but the more I've seen of Selick, if I'm saying his name wrong, apologies, you know me. He's not a bad fighter. This could be. I'm picking Lawrence Okolie to win this fight, but this could be a good little scrap. This could be a good little scrap, lads. Could be a very good little scrap. So I will do. I might be going out with my friend on Saturday, so I'll probably still do a review of the Taylor fight maybe the next day. But if I can't do that, I may do a watch along for that DAZN card. We'll watch the space with that. But for now, lads and lassies, I will leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's probably gone on a bit longer than I had intended it to, but those previews take a while. They do. They really do. But lads and lassies, I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, help your boy out. Smash the like button. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. I'll talk to you, lads. Peace.